Hi everyone, and welcome to Criminal Justice Natters with me, Ed Johnston. This evening we are joined by Liam Allan and his partner Hannah Arckwright, who are the architects and creators of the criminal justice charity, The Defendant. The Defendant looks to offer emotional support to those who have been accused of crimes, whatever stage of their journey they are at. So even if it's a voluntary interview, to arrest, to charge, or through the trial process, it provides invaluable support to extremely vulnerable people who are at a very disconcerting stage in their lives. Now, obviously, we have the presumption of innocence in England and Wales, where you are presumed innocent until you are proven guilty. And that is one of the core tenets that underpins the work of Hannah and Liam. I urge you that if you have any spare cash, even if it's £1 or $1 or wherever you're watching, you know, any amount of money whatsoever, if you can donate to their charity, it will be put to extremely great use in terms of recruiting more volunteers to help them out and just keep the charity running. If you can check out the charity at thedefendant.org.uk, and there'll be a banner running beneath our chat. So let's get to chatting to Hannah and Liam. Hi, Liam and Hannah. Thanks for joining us this evening. I appreciate you're extremely busy with everything you have going on, and obviously your little girl as well. So I really appreciate that you taking some time out of your evening. But what I wanted to sort of get at this evening is looking at, you know, what you guys are doing with the Defendant charity, how it came about, and basically if you could tell us your story, if that's okay.
Yeah, do you want to start?
You could start.
Oh, well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, this isn't my first rodeo.
No, she's been on before.
Yeah, I was falsely accused of multiple rape and sexual assault. Had massive disclosure failures in my case. And then we sort of did a campaign. I say we, me and some other people did a campaign called Innovation of Justice. Hosted a couple of conferences around the country, which was pretty cool. Met loads of people going through the system, organizations, everything like that. And then at one of them, we met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I went to one of Liam's conferences because I had also been falsely accused, but of domestic violence by an ex. I was lucky in many ways. There were no kind of failures of the police as such. It took a very long time to come to an end. It took a year and 3 police officers, but it was NFA'd after a year. But about 6 months in, anyway, I went to one of Liam's conferences, and yeah, that's where we met.
And loved it.
Yeah,
of course.
So you say you were NFA'd, which is obviously no further action. Can you tell us, Hannah, what you experienced through the criminal justice process from the day of the accusation until that NFA decision?
Yeah, so the whole thing was pretty mind-blowing, to be honest. When I was first contacted by the police, I was in a complete state of shock. And I just rang my dad and I was just like, help. And he was like, what's happened? I was just like, help. I couldn't even think of anything else to say. I don't know kind of what's happening. And I was speaking to the officer and she was like, you can have a solicitor. I was like, I don't need one. I haven't done anything. And my dad was going, you need one. I was like, I don't need one. And we went back and forth anyway. I didn't get one. Yeah, so I was interviewed and that was all fine. I had a lot of evidence to back up what I was saying was true. A lot of Facebook messages, a lot of texts, calls, Facebook login history, all those kind of things, which me and my family spent hours going through, screenshotting, printing, and then sent to my solicitor, put them in chronological order, and then sent them on to the officer. So I'm not quite sure why it took them a year to drop it, given that we sort of handed them everything on a platter. But the first one went on long-term sick, so she, was never taken that very far. And then when the case did end, I wasn't told for another couple of months that it ended. I was only told when I rang my solicitor to ask about moving house and whether it was okay if I moved into, you know, a certain area and whatever. And he was like, yeah, why wouldn't it be?
Oh, right. So you had no idea.
No, I had no idea. He was like, oh, we thought we told you. I was like, no, nobody told me. But thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, indeed.
So the whole thing was pretty, yeah, it was a complete whirlwind. It's very, kind of numbs you, to be honest. And it was in my last year of university, so obviously the most important year, and it was all I could think about, and all my grades slipped and everything else, and I was going to leave university, and there were discussions at university about me not being able to complete my year, not being able to graduate, and all of those things. Luckily, I had a great course leader and good support at uni who kind of advocated for me big time to stay at uni and just to finish my degree, both to the people that wanted me to leave and to myself when I wanted to leave. So that was good. But I'd wanted to do postgrad medicine. I'd had a place at uni to do postgrad medicine. And because of the investigation, my place was taken away from me.
Okay.
And anyone who knows about that process, it's a really long, expensive, and difficult process to get into. So that was pretty gutting.
In terms of when you were first accused and maybe interviewed by the police, and your dad's sort of imploring you to get a lawyer, and you're like, well, I don't need one. What sort of influenced your mind in terms of, I don't need this free legal advice?
I was, to be honest, I didn't know it was free.
Okay.
Which obviously played a big impact. You know, as a student, I didn't have any money. And two, I really just thought, I haven't done anything. Surely if I go and tell the truth, nothing bad can happen. But that was my complete mindset. And then I did a bit of Googling and realized that actually was not the case. And I should get someone that knows the law kind of to tell my side of the story. Not that, to be honest, I think it would have made a massive difference if they hadn't been there, because I still just said my bit, but it was good to have them just in case.
Absolutely. So this happens and you guys meet at the Innovation of Justice conference, and you now have this criminal justice charity, the Defendant, which looks excellent. The banner is running below. People can check out the site there. What inspired you to think, let's help all of these other people that are in the shoes we were once in?
We were in Spain, I think. Like, the idea had kind of been floated between us, and even before we'd met, for such a long time. It was personally something that I think for me, I was really struggling to keep up with the messages. I was really struggling to handle things one-on-one, like I'm just one person. And I guess the flip side of this is, like, you have just a finite amount of time. Once you finish work and finish all the other things that you're doing, like during all of this, you know, when things first came out, I was just finishing off one degree and then I was going on to do a master's. And so, like, even the time in between that, whilst trying to do full-time work, was just becoming impossible.
Primarily, we set it up because through, you know, discussions, not just between ourselves, but with other people, there is no support. And both of us and most other people we've spoken to have had, you know, those feelings of anxiety, isolation, and quite often suicidal thoughts as well. Because there is nothing there, there's nobody for you to talk to. And as Liam said, he got a lot of messages, but it's only one person. So something more formal and a bit bigger needed kind of to be put in place.
So in terms, carry on, Liam.
I was just going to say that that's kind of where we started, was like a lot of the questions that we were getting in and that we were thinking of could have all been handled really by information on a website to begin with. A lot of things were about the practicality of the legal system. What should I be expecting? and trying to understand the difference, I guess, between what the status quo of the legal system now is, which is long waiting times, so on and so forth, and abuses of power, like disclosure failures, police officers doing things, that are outside of the bounds of pace, and those types of things, and not being able to recognize and understand what was supposed to come. You just think everything's corrupt, when actually this is how the system is at the moment, and it's not necessarily corruption. These are the things that are the problem, and it's kind of trying to not really help yourself in that way, but it's just to manage your expectation of, don't go into something like this thinking, no matter what the crime is, don't go into it thinking this is going to be over in about 2 weeks, regardless of innocence or guilt.
Which is largely what I thought.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought, I'll tell my bit, they'll go and speak to friends and family. Everyone's story will align apart from the story that you've initially been told, which is by the accuser, and then that'll be it. And lo and behold, 2 years later, I was like, what an idiot. But you just, and that's part of the anxiety, it's just the unknown.
Did you take legal advice when you were first interviewed, Liam, or did you not need it, not think you not need it either?
Well, to be honest, I did take it, but I didn't think I never said it out loud, but I didn't think I needed it, because in my mind, I guess Hannah might have been the same, really. Is like, in my mind, it was just like, why do I need a lawyer to present my argument? Surely that is what I'd need if I was guilty.
Yeah, that's exactly what
if I'm innocent, then I can just tell my story. And actually, I'm glad that I did have my solicitor in there, because he was talking to me about how things went, and he did help manage expectations. I did get generally a really good one. But, you just sort of had that initial moment of, what's the point?
Yeah, I was actually so nervous in the end, having Googled that I got 2 solicitors to turn up on the day, and then was too nervous to tell one to go away, so I had to get my mum to say, actually, we only need one of you.
Yeah, I mean, it never fails to surprise me, just the general public's perception of, well, I don't need it because my side of the story is true, and the police are now going to see that, and I'm going to go home. And I think you have a classic example here of 2 young people where that just fundamentally wasn't the case. I think it's really important, that uptake of defence representation in the police station. What I like about your website is, like, when you land on the homepage, it's so striking. White background, black letters, innocent until proven guilty. Do you think that concept, because that is the concept in an adversarial justice system, but do you think to the wider public that comes through and that's the case?
In criminal law, no. It's really weird. I think somebody else was talking to me ages ago about like compensation claims, not in the legal system, but generally. And people are willing to question when somebody's making compensation claims. If you say you've got whiplash, a lot of people go, oh, really? How bad is it? That type of thing. But when it's in the legal system, it's the complete opposite. You're instantly like, oh, that must have happened. Why would somebody lie? And it seems that we're able to comprehend why people would lie in any other context normally, other than criminal law, because why would you lie that something happened when it didn't? So I don't think so. I think we're just so quick to judge, but I think it's part of gossipy. And
a lot of no smoke without fire, like, even if what they're saying didn't happen, something must have happened to make them, elaborate on the story or whatever. But clearly that's not true.
And I think that phrase in itself, when I ask students on my course of criminal procedure and punishment, we cover the sort of the presumption of innocence, and I would love to have £1 every time that somebody says to me, well, no smoke without fire. And I'm like, okay, this is brilliant, we're going to have a discussion here. But it's such a go-to reaction. You see something on the news and someone's like, oh yeah, he looks dodgy, he looks like that type of person. And I think it's so ingrained in society that the presumption of innocence doesn't exist. There's a presumption of guilt, and then it's for the suspect or defendant to prove their innocence, which is obviously the reversal of what actually happens. And I wonder how can we get away from that idea?
One of the big ones is the narrative in statistics. The narrative in statistics at the moment is if you're found not guilty, you're somebody that was guilty but got away with it. Baffles me, absolutely baffles me. And it don't, I mean, this isn't having a go at the flip side of things, because people are being raped and they, you know, and the people that have committed the crime are getting away with it. There's no real denying that, I think, at this stage. But when we're talking statistics and the percentage of 2% is thrown around, when you actually look more in depth at the other 98%, the people that are found not guilty in that 98% are considered people that have got away with it, and that's it. And so it just baffles me, because then we are making the assumption of, I mean, I used to think that you would get charged, and that must mean that there's more to the case. They wouldn't charge you without looking at the evidence. And then I think after my case, somebody came out and like somebody senior came out and said, you could be charged without looking at any of the evidence. So
I think a lot of it is about education as well. Obviously, it's not mandatory to teach in schools. And so most people only learn about the criminal justice system when they come involved in it. And either you are a victim, or you're a defendant, or you're a complainant and for whatever reason have made something up. But then obviously you're going in with that kind of one-sided narrative of the criminal justice system. So whether you've been let down as a victim by the criminal justice system, then I guess you think a lot of people are getting away with crimes. Whereas if you've been on the reverse have been falsely accused and charged and got to trial, then you think the other kind of side. So education, I think, would probably play quite a big part in helping change that view.
Absolutely. As I say, you know, I encounter second years who are at the very least 18 years old, and if they don't get it and they're studying a law degree with, you know, a choice in criminal procedure, and they still don't necessarily have their eyes open to it right now, I think education is key. In terms of the website, you say you're here to provide emotional and practical support for defendants. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of how someone would get involved with you and get in touch with you, and then what you can do from there?
So we've got two methods. We've got a helpline that is open 3 days a week from 6 till 10, where we have a number of volunteers on each night that people can call and just chat, ask any questions about the system. We don't provide any legal advice, but we can answer practical questions like, what is bail? How long can I be on bail for? Those kind of things. And if people don't want to call, because obviously some people don't want to pick up the phone, it's quite a anxiety inducing thing, we have an email support team as well that will provide more continuous support to individuals. So we'll check in every week and try and keep up to date with them in that way, whereas the helpline is more of a one-off kind of thing.
Yeah. In terms of the helpline, are you full with sort of volunteer help now, or is there anything people will watch this and then get in contact with you to assist you? Or
so
it's a bit tricky. We've had like a few people contact us, and sometimes it is kind of timing, you know. Sometimes at that point, Hannah and I have sat down literally like the day before and been like, what if we created this kind of department? Wouldn't it flow much quicker, like better, and everything like that? So I think at the moment we've probably got, not to sell people dreams, probably a couple of positions either available or upcoming.
What we'd like to do is open the helpline for more days. Basically, so obviously we'd need a few more volunteers. We've got a number at the moment, but funding obviously plays a big part in that.
It's just us sitting here in the evenings with 3 volunteers at a time, you know, between 6 and 10, 3 nights a week. And I think that on its own is proper grassroots.
Well, it sounds like it's a really good start, though, and it's a really good platform that people are going to use. In terms of funding, how can people assist you with a funding drive?
Any donations? I mean, like, there's a whole thing about you know, I can only afford £1, and so £1 wouldn't make a massive difference. A lot of things with donations for us as well is it counts towards later on down the line when we're applying for funding. How many supporters have you got? Those types of things. You know, the quantity of the support is only really measurable by the number of people that are donating. You know, if one person does one big donation, and when you're doing funding applications, you only really tend to put that down as one supporter. And the focus.
Not that we discourage that.
No.
No.
Yeah. Anybody who wants to donate loads of money, please don't. No, you know. And so for us, it's just as many people that can help.
We have a crowdfunder to donate on.
Yeah, it means a lot. And so yeah, I think that's running down the bottom. But on the website there is a donate button that takes you to a crowdfunder. There was an initial target of 10,000. I think we're having to look way beyond that now just to be able to open this full time.
Yeah.
We can raise money by doing events yourselves if you want to. Whatever.
Yeah, if you contact us, you know, either through the website or email us, our emails are on the bottom of the website as well. You know, and you're at a university or something and you want to do, when things are back to normal, like a bake sale or whatever, you know, those types of things, we're not going to. Yeah. It'd be great to have some collaborations with multiple universities. I think we're really big on
groups or anything. Yeah, just any way anyone wants to donate, we'd be thrilled. Basically.
Okay. No, that sounds good. And I think the idea of, you know, bake sales and drives like that, you know, it doesn't matter necessarily about the amount. It's all going to count and go to a good home. In terms of the people who use your helpline and have contacted you, is there like a massive disparity in how they are feeling and the sort of socioeconomic background and sort of mental health concerns, or do you see similar traits in almost all of the people who have called you for help?
Oh, these are good questions. To be honest, I think and Hannah and I have discussed this now a few times recently. I think for us, we are now starting to look as a charity beyond the confines of sexual, you know, allegations and miscarriages of justice, specifically, you know, false accusations, because the charity's there for everybody. I think I don't
think that was what the question was.
No, but like, so like the people that we get at the moment are quite. I was leading into it. The people that we get at the moment are quite similar in terms of what they're going through, in terms of what they're accused of.
But even if they're not in their mental state, it's all very, very similar.
Yeah, I mean, most people really just need that opportunity to offload mentally. It's just, it builds up. It really does.
Largely, you know, it's anxiety, isn't it? That's pretty much that's the overriding feeling from almost everyone that's wrong. Panic and anxiety.
Just loneliness, I think, is a really big one out of everyone that we've spoken to. I think no matter whether it's family member or not, it's just, you feel, as soon as you're accused of a crime, they just feel isolated. It's the first thing. And so they're just absolutely baffled when, you know, they look for help or they look for things that can support them. And when they get to us, by that point, they say, you know, we can't see anything else. There's nobody else that we are able to speak to.
And are these people's lives on hold? I know Hannah said, you know, almost a year, and obviously Liam, you were closer to 3 years. How long generally from the moment of arrest do you find these people's lives are on hold?
Oh, it can just vary massively.
The whole time, I think, really. Like,
I mean, the whole time that's from charge to decision, or from arrest, or even non-arrest, voluntary interview.
Yeah, voluntary interview,
to a decision. That whole time, obviously, their lives are on hold. You can't and don't want to really plan anything. But the length of time that can be varies dramatically.
Yeah. From what the people that we've spoken to, the ones that are probably suffering the most are students and teachers. It doesn't seem to end just that, you know, if the decision's been made in the accusation. We're getting a lot of students that are having universities kind of prosecute, as without, and that whole way that it's dealt with in that, I don't know, I don't want to say another world, but it does feel like it, you know, it just feels out of a completely different place. Teachers are investigated separately. Students are investigated
in a lot of employment. That even after the criminal investigation is done, you're kind of still on trial in your workplace, in your social life, and everything like that as well. So even after it's done, it's not the end.
I think that was a big thing for us, was like how many people we are speaking to where they've had the accusation and they've kind of got past that, and how difficult it is just after the accusation, even if it's just NFA, to rebuild any kind of life. It's not even just about moving on your own, it's just about everybody else around you moving on as well. Whether or not you end up having to leave the places that you're in, whether that's employment or school or whatever. Weird world.
Absolutely. And just briefly, how did you two both sort of deal with that rebuild once all of this is over, as it were? How did you go about rebuilding your lives?
Just when I had a baby, didn't we?
Well, maybe before the baby.
I think we'll both probably have different ways of answering this.
Yeah, so you can
go
first.
I'll go first. For me, I really struggled to plan any kind of future for such a long time. I think that really kind of changed early stages of us meeting. I think at the same time, there was a lot of things mentally that I started to overcome from the case. But there's just, I don't know, I think once I left and I started, and this isn't healthy, I ended up starting to sort of like not drop friends, but walk away from things that might remind me of the accusation. And it was a really difficult point to, I guess, the thing that I say to everybody is to embrace your story. You know, it's part of you now. There's no getting away from it. And I was telling people that, and I still think subconsciously I was trying to do that and cutting things off and leaving places or doing things, and, you know, just trying to pretend as if it wasn't part of life, unless I was asked a media story or speaking to somebody that had been through it. And it was just like trying to split my life into two different people. It just took so long to put them back into one. And I think that's an experience that a lot of people do or have.
Yeah, I think similar, to be honest. I largely wanted to get away from everything that would kind of remind me, which is why I didn't apply for medicine again. I thought, you know, I don't want to kind of go back down that route. So I went to law instead. So I wanted to make it seem like kind of there was a point to this year of my life. And it wasn't just, you know, to throw various obstacles at me and make it a bit of a misery, which is why I went into law. And I wanted to use it to kind of make a difference, I guess, which not only helped me, but I hope helps other people as well. So yeah, that's why I did.
And how did the law studies go? Are you finished the law stuff, or are you still studying it now?
So I finished my law degree, and I'm kind of taking a bit of a break in my legal career to do the charity and things like that before I go on and do a training contract or similar to actually qualify as a solicitor.
Yeah.
But my actual university studies are done.
Well done. Superb. And just one final question. Just, are there any sort of future plans for the charity, or are you just going to continue to grow sort of organically as you're doing now?
I think we've said our end of year goal for the charity, as a big sign of like moving things forward, would be if we can get our charity number and email address on as many of the sheets that you're given once you're arrested. After you're arrested, you're given like a list of like support emails that we found out are police force specific. We thought they were.
Got to contact them all separately.
Oh yeah. So how many? Like, there's 43 or something like that, isn't there?
47.
47.
So each of them have to say yes. So we had a really productive one with Bedfordshire Police, and that was the first of hopefully many. But by the end of the year, I think that's the end goal. But
in terms of doing something, anything kind of, we want to increase the opening hours of the helpline, but we're kind of going with need and demand and are pretty organic and free flowing. We have no real set structure because it doesn't really work when you do, because things don't work out like that. So
that's a life lesson for everyone.
Indeed. Indeed.
If we could be like victim support, but for defendants,
Yeah.
then I think one, that will show a balance in the system at least, but also I think that's what we envision this being like from day one.
Eventually.
Well, I guess it kind of already is, really. It's
Yeah,
just
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today on Criminal Justice Natters, and I wish you the very best of luck with the future of the defendant and everything else that you're going to do. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Cheers. I want to thank Hannah and Liam for taking time out of their busy schedule to talk to me this evening about their charity and the sterling work that they are doing with it. I know they're extremely busy, but it really is such a great charity. So thank you very much for your time. It was a really enlightening chat about what you're doing and your plans for the charity moving forward. I wish you the very best of luck with it. And as I've said at the start, any supporters that got any spare change, please consider donating. Thank you very much for watching.